and the first quarter of The Winning Side is brought to you by our friends at Open Mortgage. Call our teammate Dave to make your retirement dreams possible. And thank you, everyone. It's good to have you here this week for The Winning Side. I'm Liz Habib. I am your host. Jackie, Slater, Vince Ferragamo, and a very special guest, Ryan Kalil, the big man, in studio today with us. I'm hanging out in Pittsburgh, you guys, where a very special debut made on the Steelers. Vince, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But first, Vince.
Yes.
Vince,
Hi,
how
Liz.
you feeling, my man? Yeah,
I'm
before we get to
feeling a little
everybody else, I want to know
better.
how you're feeling.
Each and every day is better. You know how that back surgery goes. It's hit or miss, but I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay. So I'm here with everybody today. Couldn't miss it.
How many bottles of Ferragamo wine did you down in your recovery time?
I wish I would drink the whole case, Jackie, before the surgery. But no, I'm just waiting to have a nice glass of wine here with my pasta here pretty soon, Liz. So
with your posse.
Liz,
all right.
Liz, I'll tell you one good thing that has come from his back surgery is that I actually drove us here today. And we came here safer than we ever come with him driving anywhere.
This guy's a good driver, actually.
This guy's reckless right here.
I'm going to have to hire him more often.
What in the world?
Yeah.
He's a reckless driver.
Why
There's no doubt
you
about it.
always drive, Jackie?
Well, no, I don't always drive.
Listen.
He does.
But I know that he always drives that little Porsche, and I don't understand how either one of you ever fit in a car like that, but okay. Speaking of not fitting in a car like that, we're taking way too long to introduce that man sitting there right next to you. He is a USC Trojan. He's from Manhattan Beach. You guys are in the Manhattan Beach studios. Carolina Panther, I think two-time All-Pro. I could go down the list, but I just heard you and Ryan Kalil, Jackie, spent some time together talking about what big men do, and that is the offensive line.
Oh, without doubt. This guy right here, I've known him since he was in high school, and he wasn't quite as big as he is now or was when he was playing, but boy, he was special. And what a treat it was for me to watch him play 13 years of professional football, a leader of his football team, and just a special player. I enjoyed it. It really made retirement a lot of fun for me watching him have a career.
So what'd you two talk about on Ryan's podcast? Any good O-line stories?
Lots of O-line stories. What'd you say, Ryan?
What's that? I can't hear her. Sorry, I didn't get the fancy. Earpiece.
She just asked me, what did we talk about on your podcast when you were, O-line stuff and everything, and we talked about a lot of things. We talked about, some of the things that you learned from me, and which I was surprised that he was paying as much attention as he was, and then talked about his career, and he's a very inquisitive young man, and I happen to believe that, Liz, who he is, the statement that he makes about who he is, you could see it in all of his performances. He's one of those guys that wants to dominate the environment around him, and he always did that as a player. And same thing with his podcast. He has some very probing questions, and I couldn't answer all of them.
You need to ask Ryan. The smartest guy on the offensive line is the offensive center. It's got to be, because he's the one who distributes
Smarter
the calls.
than the quarterback.
Right, he's got to be.
Right.
You know what? Seriously, though,
right?
Ryan, seriously, I have a confession to make. I'll make it right now. I've had to ask Rich Saul a couple times what the snap count was.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because when you're playing with all these things, you're thinking about the coverage, who's going to get the ball, what down and distance, what's the time on the clock. You forget the snap count.
Yeah.
Has that ever happened to you? I mean,
all the time. I mean, the amount of times I've been a fall guy for a quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, listen. No, but I'll say this. If you ask any professional athlete, every one of them has a story of somebody early on in their lives that really instilled a confidence about putting them on a trajectory to have success. And it's hard to do anything without that in any aspect of life, but especially in sports. And I was fortunate enough, I had a father who played the game a little bit. And when I got to high school, I was lucky enough to be able to be on the same team as Matthew Slater, the great New England Patriots gunner now. But long time ago, before all that, he was a wide receiver on my freshman football team. And this handsome, very imposing figure would show up to the practices.
Hey, I'll coach you, man. But no, seriously, isn't it great to coach guys like this, Jackie, that listen, that will look in your eyes and take what you say and then try to reproduce it on the field? I mean, it goes a long way.
It goes a long way. And then to watch him grow and to watch him go through different hurdles and jump over different hurdles. Like he wasn't recruited very highly coming out of high school. I think a couple of opportunities you say you had, but he wanted to go to big time football. He went to USC. They had a camp up there, and he went up there and blocked all of the top prospects up there, and they offered him a scholarship that day.
But young aspiring kids who would like to play football, Jackie, should take on what Ryan did for himself. And you took the initiative, I think, Ryan, to go to one of the USC football camps because you weren't being highly recruited, and you made an impression on those coaches, but it was because of what you wanted to do personally. I think that says a lot.
Well, I was also pretty undersized. I didn't get a lot of offers, not because I didn't have the talent, but because, coaches want to look at the whole package. They want to see if a guy has potential to grow. And my dad was a big guy, but I was kind of a grunt. Like I wasn't, I was probably, my senior year, I was probably 240 at the most. There's not a lot of colleges recruiting left tackles that weigh 240 pounds.
But you have a younger brother who's pretty big, isn't he?
My younger brother now, he was a much different story.
He's the prototype.
He's the prototype. But I wasn't, and I think, guys like my dad, Jackie was somebody who kept coming around, and anytime I had doubt about me being able to play at the next level, these guys kept coming around and saying, don't listen to any of that. You can play. Just keep working on your technique. Just keep working hard. And, the size is going to come. That stuff you can't teach. But these things you can control. These things are the tangible things that are really going to help you. And Jackie talked about that camp. I didn't have the size, but after working with my dad, Ed Drzanek, who was my high school coach, and then this guy we were just joking, I still have echoes of things.
Can you recite what his
the first thing he would always say,
it's amazing.
The first thing he'd come around a bunch and say a whole lot of things, but the thing I always remember he would say is he who. He would say he who. Okay. And what that means is he who controls the chest always wins. So everything, Jackie was, you watch his old tapes, he was like a fighter. He was so great with his hands. He was such a technician. But he's so right. If you can control your opponent's chest, they can't go anywhere. They can't do anything. They can do all the fancy moves they want, but they can't move if you get them upright and control their chest.
Absolutely.
So we would work to exhaustion doing these drills, and at first I was like, oh, this is nice of this guy to do it. But then I realized, oh, he just wants some good linemen to block for his son so he can get his stats up.
Don't get
so
catch the
Mac
football.
can catch some football.
That's
but
right.
then over time, we spent a lot of intimate time and really just evolved and advanced. And I was so grateful and am still grateful to this day for all the time he spent. And it paid off. I went to those SC camps, and I wasn't the biggest guy, but I was technically sound, and I was fighting guys twice my size. And I left that place shirt ripped, bloody nose. And I thought, man, I really made an impact here. They're going to offer me. And they didn't. They said, you got to come back to the next camp. So I did. And then they put me through the ringer again, and I was like, well, now for sure. And they didn't. They made me come back to a third one.
Wow.
And finally, my pops was like, well, he ain't coming back to any more camps.
That's it.
You give him a scholarship or not. And they did. Pete Carroll brought me up to his office, and they offered me that day. So
how about that? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Guys.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You were there for 3 years, correct?
Four years.
You redshirted your first year, and then you played for 3 years. Correct?
No, I backed up my first year. So I was supposed to redshirt, and then they had some injuries, so I backed up. And then I played. I started for 3 years after that.
And then you were a second-round pick of the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, that's right.
It was so much fun watching all of that, man. It was so cool.
So what do you think of all that, Liz? That's pretty awesome.
I love that story. I wonder what Carroll said to you. Was your dad in the room when they offered the scholarship? And what did Pete Carroll say? Can you ask Ryan that?
She wanted to know, what did Pete Carroll say to you when he offered you the scholarship?
He was pretty honest. He goes, you got a lot of work to do. You got a lot of work cut out for you, but these guys vouch for you. Ed Drzanek vouched for me. Tim Davis, Kennedy Palomalu vouched for me. Troy Polamalu vouched for me.
Oh, so, Troy was there at that time then, huh?
Troy was there.
Wow.
And so I just went to work, and every year I was having to prove my worth to them. And even my sophomore year, they recruited the highest ranked guy in all of high school football was the center out of Colorado named Jeff Byers, who ended up being one of my best friends. But at the time, not just highest offensive lineman, but of all high school football.
Wow. Top-rated guy.
Top-rated guy, and he committed to SC. So I was like, all right, well, just because this senior's leaving, I still got work. So, the thing I learned from Pete was how to compete in everything that you do, and we did that a lot at SC. Obviously, I was part of those great teams.
Fantastic team.
And I was bummed for Matt. You know, he was on the other side of town at UCLA.
Oh yeah.
So it was tough beating up on him, and I'd let him know it. And now he likes to remind me of all the Super Bowl rings he had.
That's right. He's got the final laugh.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Oh, can you imagine going to 5
guys.
Super Bowls and winning 3?
Yeah, Liz.
Unbelievable.
No.
Ryan did go to the Super Bowl, and it was tough. It was that 50th Super Bowl against Denver. Right? He was there with Cam Newton.
That's right.
Can you give us a little memory out of that?
How about that memory of your Super Bowl with Cam Newton, Ryan? That had to be a pretty special.
I
moment.
mean, it was good all the way up to the end there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was quite a special season, and I mean, we were rolling. It looked like for a minute we might go undefeated for the season, but we ended up going 15-1 and came into that playoff just really roaring on all cylinders, and we've kind of felt unstoppable. And, you know, Denver, they played great. They had our number defensively. I thought our defense played well and had a good plan against old
That was
man.
the team Peyton Manning was on.
Yeah, that was
Yes.
his last. That was his last season.
Right.
They had a good game plan against old man Manning, and you know, we started kind of getting, you know, they had that big play defensively against us, kind of put us off our rhythm, and then we sort of found some groove back, and then just we couldn't really catch a break. You know, we started moving the ball, we'd fumble, we'd start moving the ball, threw a pick. So it's just one of those days where, you know how it goes, everything just kind of went wrong.
I think, wasn't that Von Miller's
Von
first
Miller.
Super Bowl win, right, Jackie?
Yeah.
And then he made a career in Denver.
Yeah.
He goes to the Rams. Now he's with Buffalo.
Yes,
He'd
now he's
probably
with
be
Buffalo.
one of the only players I could ever remember who's won 3 Super Bowls with 3 different teams.
If he wins it with Buffalo, no doubt
I mean,
about
they
it.
got a shot.
But he wreaked havoc that particular day, and
He did.
he was
He did.
named the
Thanks,
Super Bowl.
thanks for reminding me.
Well, he wasn't over you though, Ryan. I know he wasn't playing over you,
He
right?
was named the Super Bowl MVP, and you know what? I feel bad. You know why I feel bad? Because your offensive line coach had me to come and speak to you guys. You remember I came?
I do.
I came and
I
spoke
remember.
to the offensive line before
yeah.
the game and everything,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, okay, I know they're gonna go and get him now, and then the bottom fell out something, and they might have said,
Yeah, we
wish
called that-
Jackie had stayed at home.
Yeah.
Oh,
We called that the Jackie curse. We said never again we're allowed to have him back. No, I'm just kidding. Never. Never.
That's a good one.
Oh, I was pulling hard for you guys. though,
I
man.
know.
Wow.
You know, you guys, I always bring it up with you guys, and we joke around a little bit because you did get to the Super Bowl. But again, you guys, for you two, I mean, Jackie, you've watched Matthew win all those Super Bowls, and you and Vince made it to the Super Bowl but didn't win it. I bring up the Super Bowl with Ryan, but I think it's such an amazing thing even to make it that far. And maybe you guys see it that way because you want to win it all. But I think just getting there is such an incredible feat that you're all to be congratulated for it at that level. But I'm sure you all can share. I mean, this is something between the three. You get into the Super Bowl and not winning the Super Bowl, it's got to be kind of tough.
That's right. We all have something in common.
Yeah, we do have.
All been
the
to a
three of
Super
us-
Bowl and never won. So
Yeah. We went and just didn't get it done. And in our case, with 11 minutes to go in the ball game, we had the lead.
yeah.
We had the lead. We had them.
Yep.
And then, of course, Vince threw
Yeah.
up the Lambo.
That's my other confession I got to make. You know, I broke the huddle.
What's your other confession?
When you ever have
What
confusion on a
confession?
play, you're better off not running it at all. I mean, you remember who's calling the plays, Jack Faulkner. Remember, he called the play,
Lord.
sent it in. And he called the play, Ryan. We had never practiced. And I had to recite. I said, okay, well, I guess this is the play. And I was trying to think about, well, where's the receivers going? Who's doing this? Who's doing that? And what are you going to do? I threw the ball to Jack Lambert. It was the best pass I threw all day, but he sent it for the wrong guy.
Yeah, he threw it to Lambo.
Guys, ask Ryan about that. Ask Ryan to give us a moment where, like, maybe there was a ton of confusion in the huddle. Maybe where he had to take something over when he was on the offensive line. Is there something that stands out? He can tell us a good story.
Ryan, is there something is there any particular instance that you can remember where there was some confusion that entered the situation, and all of a sudden you made a mistake that really hurt the game, the outcome of the game?
You know, actually, quite the opposite. I remember a mistake I made really bad early in my career that ended up helping us win a game against the Chargers in San Diego. There was some communication happening with Jake Delhomme and the receivers, and he was trying to make a call, and I couldn't hear him say hut, and I kind of snapped it late. Everybody was waiting on me. And the snap ended up kind of being really rushed because I could feel something was off, so I tried to hustle it back, and it ended up going real high, but he was able to catch it. And he brought it down, and he ended up throwing it to our tight end who was wide open, and we won the game.
So the timing might have been just right on.
Well, so what he told me was,
late.
he said, I was getting ready to chew you out, but he said, your snap was so bad, it took my read off the guy I wanted to throw it to, and it brought me right to the tight end who was wide open. So,
how about that?
Pretty good.
Yeah, that is good.
That is.
I like that. Yeah.
Wow.
That's what I wanted to know. Something good, not something bad, Jackie. I wanted something good. And I know Ryan can't hear me, so you guys are doing a good job trying to translate everything I'm
She didn't
saying.
like that answer? She wants
loved
something.
No, she loved it. She loved
No,
it.
I love that answer.
Yeah.
Instead of
That was
something
the
bad.
answer.
Oh,
Yeah,
got it.
something good
Yes.
happened.
Well, I played
Yeah,
offensive
I
line.
loved
There's
it.
a lot of bad plays involved, you know?
More than enough. More than enough.
Right?
Well,
I loved it.
I can tell you, Liz, though, because as a quarterback, the most important key for any quarterback is to have that protection right up the gut.
Yeah.
And when you have a reliable center and two guards, of course, the tackles have the outside rush. But if they want to blitz right up the gut, I always encourage them to blitz because I felt very confident an offensive line could take care of the blitz. And it would pass protect. Now, I could always get pressure from the outside, but the ball would be gone by then. And so to have guys like you up front that can notice on the spur of the moment to make a call, to make a switch, to double team, to have the guard help you or have his own man. I mean, to me, that's vitally, that's one of the major understandings that you have to have in football.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt. It's everybody understands the fact that if you don't have a good center,
Yes.
then you're not going to have a good offensive line. He is constantly directing traffic. He's sending the offensive line. He sees a linebacker or a safety, walks up in the box. Right. It changes the numbers, and he's got to direct the offensive line. So I can't tell you the number of times I walked to the line of scrimmage not knowing if I was going to be able to focus here or if I had to focus here and there, and I'm listening for him to tell me what to do.
That's good.
The best football players, in my opinion, that I've ever played with, and some of the smartest, was the centers, because they always had to direct us in the direction that we needed to go.
I think you're right, Jack.
And Ryan
Hey, guys,
does a fantastic job
I
of that.
appreciate that. I had good coaching.
Yes, you did have good coaching, Ryan Kalil. You did on every level. So, hey guys, I want to move on to really the thing that everyone's been talking all week. We can talk about some games, but we immediately saw, and we have a text thread between me and Vince and Jackie and Dave, who does this podcast with us. Listen, right away we saw what happened to Tua this week, and I want Ryan to weigh in right away what his initial thoughts were. So, ask Ryan his initial thoughts on that, and then let's talk a little bit more, because for me it was shocking. It was stunning for me to see what happened with Tua this week. So let's ask Ryan first, you guys, what he saw.
Ryan, your impressions of the Tua Tagovailoa incident with his brain and the hit that he encountered in the Buffalo game, and then he comes back the following week to play Cincinnati. What's your take on all of that and what happened and how it came down?
You know, it's hard to comment on the decisions they made to play him without knowing all the circumstances. I will tell you personally, for me, and I know you guys can attest to this too, our understanding of concussions has evolved. Our sort of how we handle them has evolved since early days when we played, and they used to just say you got your bell rung.
Got your bell rung.
You know, now, you know,
Yeah.
at least the time I spent in Carolina and just talking to guys around the league, I will say the NFL has done a good job taking it pretty serious. You know, the counter to that, though, is a lot of it, the onus is on the player, and it's hard to get in there. There's no scan or anything you can really tell for kind of the minutia of those motor function things that might still need time to heal. And I know guys, and I'm guilty of it as well, that there was an opportunity to, you know, take time off and make sure, or be out there with your guys and try to help them win. So it's really hard to comment on that situation without knowing what was said, what was talked about, what tests they sort of ran that didn't really tell them the whole picture, and then they sort of rely on the player. So, you know, I think where the NFL can do a better job is they're just going to have to continue to find ways to remove the player altogether. If there's any sort of sign of it, they're going to have to take them out of the equation, because there's too much emotional drive behind it for a multitude of reasons. That's hard for those guys to not want to go out there. So, and I think it's important to do, not only for the safety of the guys, and obviously that was such a hard image to watch.
Right.
Yes, it was very
with
difficult
what was happening there, but also it's bad for the longevity of the game. You have a lot of moms and dads watching that, and I think youth tackle football, especially in this country, has already been taking a hit.
Yes.
Flag football is becoming really popular, and other sports are starting to rise up. So for the longevity and the health of the game, I think the NFL is going to have to really do a good job to make sure that kind of thing doesn't happen again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. It used to be a badge of honor to say I got my bell rung, and then to come over and get some ammonia tablets underneath your nose there to kind of make you sharp again, and then you go right back in and play. But you know, in light of all of the problems that we've seen with concussions and many of the guys from my generation having all of these issues, brain issues and everything, this is a very serious thing. I've lived long enough to see how serious this is and to know that people are suffering. To this day, I got friends that are suffering really bad. They're losing their memory. Now, you could say all you want about it. Hey, Jackie, can be attributed to your old age. You know, you're 60 plus years of age. But no, these guys were sharp individuals. They started having problems with their memories, you know, a decade ago when they were much, much younger. And they were the main guys who would take a big shot and then they jump up and yell to let everybody know, hey, I'm still here. And they dealt with these concussions and the symptoms of them. And then they be right back in practice the following week or right back in the game the following week, and nobody even thought about it. Nobody even gave it the slightest even mention that this guy had a major concussion a week ago and he's out here this week. I think, I agree with you, for the health of the game, because I know that my daughter-in-law was sitting there looking at this guy, and with my 3 grandsons, she's thinking to herself, I don't think I want these guys to be playing any professional football, any football at all, if they're going to allow guys to go into spasms and different things like what we
Jackie,
saw with Tua.
I agree that's a great point, because I think the primary focus of the NFL and the owners is the safety and the health of the player, to protect the safety and the health of a player. And when you see visibly that a player has suffered a concussion of some sort, and he's not stable, he cannot function, he can't get to his feet, and he falls back to the ground. They have concussion protocol scenarios that need to be put in place, which are in place. And I don't know for the life of me why he was able to return to the lineup when that happens. He's been concussed, okay? And I don't care what condition he's in. Is it his back? People were saying there's a problem with his back. That is a neurological symptom. That's not a back problem. And he was able to play the second half. And then for the league and the owners to allow him to step back on the field on a short week Thursday night, and he suffered even a more serious hit.
That second hit was awesome.
And that was it was debilitating, Jackie. Yes. It was, the sensation that you must have had when he fell and hit the ground. He convulsed. His hands were deformed. You knew it was a neurological elicitation, and so that was uncalled for. And I think there's got to be something to be done, because when your grandkids watch the game and your daughter-in-law sits there and watch the game, you want them to play football. But when you see stuff like this, you can't let them play football if they're not going to follow the proper protocol and protect the player.
Guys, can I jump in for a sec? I think that there's the mentality in a player. I wish Ryan could hear a little bit, but Tua, especially Tua Tagovailoa, Tua comes from a Polynesian family where he's the guy who takes care of everybody in his family, and he does. That's the way Tua's family works, right? He's the main guy. They all moved to Alabama when he went to Alabama to play there. He's got a brother who plays, but he's really the guy who supports the entire family. The pressure on this kid, right? Now, his first year, his second year, not so great. But now, this season, he comes in, there he's winning. You know, he's not going to pull himself out. And if there is a neurological issue, he may not even be capable of pulling himself out mentally, right? Let's be honest about what's going on there. So for all of this talk and all of these helmets and everything that's gone on, there's still something that just didn't happen correctly. It just didn't work. How did it not work? We all saw it on the field. How did they not see it? That's the really frightening thing about this.
That's exactly right, Liz. And it's not the decision of the player to make if he's going to continue in the game. It's the decision of the medical staffing that needs to make that decision. And it was very visible.
Yes.
That what happened should be dealt with. And there's going to be time, because the repetition of that happening again in a quick manner would have devastating effects down the road for this young man. So, and
also the likelihood of it happening again
is even more
increased after the first concussion.
Right.
I really, I don't know how many concussions I had. I think I probably had about 7 over the 20 years that I played. And I can remember like it was yesterday. I'd been up in San Francisco, and then guy really teed off on me there, Vince, right in my ear hole there. And I was walking toward the 49er bench, and they sent me back over to our bench, and everything. And then they gave me the ammonia capsules. You remember they used to break the ammonia capsules right in your nose? And it kind of livened me up a little bit. But this is the thing that I think the NFL, the doctors, and everybody is fighting against. After I smelled that ammonia capsule, I'm thinking, okay, I'm ready. And there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing was going to stop me from going back in the game. So here, as a player, I got my bell rung, which is a badge of honor back in these days. Now, it's a badge of honor to get your bell rung and go back in the game. I'm sitting there knowing I got my bell rung and things aren't clear, but I go back in the ball game anyway. Yeah. So this is where a player has to have some responsibility. Knowing like I know now, I never would have gone back in the ball game, but I didn't know that now. These players have to take some responsibility, but the onus is on the proper protocol being instituted and used. And that comes from the very top of NFL management all the way down to the coaching staff and the player.
And that's the reason why offensive linemen are so valuable. They are.
Protection.
You guys don't know, you're undervalued sometimes. And, the value is immense today, is the way the game is, and you got to protect the quarterback. But when we played, Ryan, really, there was a lot more latitude as to how you could hit the quarterback. Today it's even more, confined. But you can still, everybody can get hurt out there. It doesn't matter what position you play.
Right.
And so we have to be careful, Liz. I think you really have to monitor, and they have to do a great job in concussion protocol.
Vince, those were such strong words. And I know a lot of people think the same thing. And I do believe that the NFL is listening, and the players union. I think everybody agrees in this case. It was just so unfortunate what we saw happen right before our eyes. Guys, we never want to ignore such an important issue, but let's move on. Let's move on from this. Let's keep Ryan around. Let's talk about the Rams playing on Monday Night Football. They got Dallas coming up. Let's talk about the Chargers, who had a 21-0 lead. Let's talk a little bit about, Tampa Bay. Maybe let's talk about the Chiefs, and maybe we should be talking a little bit about those Ravens as well, and the Bills. I love the Bills. So let's put all that on hold. You guys think about it. Let's take a break. This is the Ion pregame on Ion Sports. You guys are in the studio. I'm in Pittsburgh in the Ion Lounge, and we're going to be right back with a whole lot more.